Sinevibes Cluster 2, an advanced, sequencer-driven rhythmic filter effect in Mac audio unit format, is free with issue 231 of Computer Music magazine. This is the full version of the plugin, as sold for $29. Draw in complex filter patterns, switch between 4 filter types on a per-step basis, apply and tweak custom filter envelope modulation, set up to 8 custom snapshot configurations, and creatively transform any audio signal. Cluster 2 can be used with any Mac-based AU-compatible DAW, such as Ableton Live, Logic, GarageBand, MainStage, Presonus Studio One, Reaper, Renoise, Digital Performer and Traction. Various parts in this track here are being rhythmically filtered. Here's a track with all the Cluster 2 instances muted. And here's the filtered version. To initially get to grips with Cluster 2, we'd advise starting with a thick sustained chord or pad part, as this will provide a harmonically dense starting point for rhythmic filtering. If you'd like to follow along, set your project to 120 and load synthchords.wav on an audio track. We'd also advise sending your signal to some sweetening reverb and delay. Insert Cluster 2 on the Synth Chords channel and hit play. Note the running transport highlight that runs through the plugin, showing the current sequence position, plus the incoming waveform appearing in real time on Cluster 2's red input section. Cluster 2's features are easy to decipher thanks to the handy colour-coded system. White parameters represent the sequencer and snapshots. Red represents the input signal. Blue parameters control the filters, and the yellow elements deal with the filter envelopes. Let's dive straight in and get filtering. Click and drag within the blue frequency section to draw in stepped filter cutoff values. Draw in regimented patterns if you're after a more predictable effect. Or you can drag around wildly in the frequency lane to create random cutoff shapes. Cluster 2 is a step sequencer-driven rhythmic filter effect, meaning you can draw in stepped filter values at user-defined rhythmic divisions. Sequencer values are set in the topmost sequencer section. Duration sets the length of one sequencer loop cycle, between the minimum 1 and the maximum 8 bars. Division switches the grid between quadruple, i.e. the usual 4 steps to every beat, or triplet values, 3 steps on every beat. The swing slider is somewhat different to most traditional swing parameters, as its default value is at 50%, meaning we can push notes either earlier or later in time. To push even-numbered step values later in time, increase the slider above its default 50%. Values between 25 and 50% pull even steps back, i.e. early in time. Drag this white ruler to shorten or lengthen the loop. Let's now venture back to the filter section. We've already drawn in a stepped curve on the frequency graph, which is modulating a low-pass filter. In the blue filter mode section, you'll notice that each step can be switched between 4 filter modes: band reject, band pass, high pass and low pass. Change your step's dot position to set that step's filter mode. Again, you can program this in carefully. Or draw in random variations throughout. The yellow sections deal with per-step modulation envelope parameters. To illustrate this more thoroughly, we'll set each step back to low-pass mode and draw a straight line of minimum value across the frequency section. Command-click to set all steps to the same value. We can't hear our audio signal now, as it's being completely filtered. Click and drag in the envelope section to apply filter frequency modulation amount on a per-step basis, opening up the filter on the steps of your choice. The envelope shape section allows you to change a particular step's envelope shape between one of 4 types. Pulse, a square style on-off shape. Again, we're command clicking to set all steps to the same value. Ramp, a saw-like fin shape. 2 times and 3 times ramp, which are multiples of ramp, meaning they stuff 2 or 3 ramp shapes within the same division. And this triangle. Each step's envelope shape can also be flipped around horizontally via its polarity button. Down here at the bottom we can dial in global filter and envelope settings, again colour-coded to represent either the filter or envelope shape. Envelope shape adjusts the timing of each envelope step. Use it to shorten or lengthen the filter envelope's effect. Each envelope shape is rather jagged, so if you want smoother, more rounded filtering, increase the envelope lag slider. Now to the blue filter settings. The filter frequency offset slider allows you to offset the filter frequency by plus or minus 50%. The resonance slider applies a peak boost around the cutoff frequency. Three filter type options are available. The default state variable filter is a 12 dB per octave type that self-oscillates with high resonance values. There are also two biquad variations. 12 dB and 24 dB per octave. Above this sits the dry-wet slider, allowing you to mix between the fully filtered signal and the dry signal. Cluster 2 allows you to create 8 individual setups, called snapshots, which are selected via the bottom 8 buttons. To duplicate a snapshot, select the first and hit copy, before switching to the second and hitting paste. Punch the reset button to reset the currently selected snapshot to default. The Evolve button ever so slightly randomizes a few of the current snapshot's parameters. Useful for adding a touch of interest or change. If you're completely stuck for inspiration, then hit the Randomize button to apply drastic random values to the snapshot. These buttons clone the first half, quarter or eighth of the current snapshot settings out through the entire sequence. Finally, the various arrows are used to shift the entire sequence left or right. Single arrows move back or forth by a single step, whereas the double arrows will move everything by beat. Check out Sinevibes' other pro-quality Mac AU plugins. Standout examples include Fraction, a rhythmic slicer for creating rolls, fills, stutters and edits. Sequential, a sequencer-driven multi-effect that houses 19 different effects. And Array, a spectral sequencer built for complex effects and morphing tones. Also take a look at Sinevibes' Complete Collection bundle, which contains all of their 21 instrument and effects plugins, and the new Dynamic Collection bundle, which contains 7 awesome effects for only $99. Finally, computer music readers get 20% off all Sinevibes plugins and bundles, valid until the end of 2016, using the code found in issue 231 of Computer Music magazine. Find out more at sinevib.es.
Download over 30 exclusive plugins. Get hundreds of pro-quality samples and power up your production skills with in-depth tutorials. We break it down for you step by step, and you'll see exactly how it's done in expert video guides and producer masterclass sessions with pro producers. Get all this and more with Computer Music magazine every month on iPad and iPhone, PC and Mac, Android, and in print.